Welcome to EnigmaCast, nerds, and boy, do I have a treat for you guys tonight because y'all don't know this. Y'all don't know this. I don't sit around and just do these videos for fun. I get on the street, right? And people don't believe me when I say I get on the street. I went to my very first ever Bigfoot conference in Pennsylvania. I made a bunch of friends, and I actually found one of the world's renowned Bigfoot researchers, Chuck Larson. Chuck Larson is going to be joining us tonight. Chuck, thanks for coming on the show, buddy.
Hey, thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Nah, man, thanks for coming on. So to give everybody a quick rundown, when I did a live, Chuck was one of the guys that I was talking to there. Chuck was emceeing the event, and it was a really good event. Chuck, can you tell me the name of that? It was 3 hours away from me. Where was that at in Pennsylvania?
It was Eaglesburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay, yeah. And I even said in my my live, if you're not going there, you're not going to find it. But
Yeah,
it was awesome, right? It was awesome, right? And so I had a great time. Met Chuck, was emceeing the event, got to hear a lot of good researchers talk, and I'm gonna tell you how me and Chuck hit it off, right? Real quick before I dig into how awesome Chuck is. Sasquatch Steve, the one-eyed wonder on my channel, is actually from New Jersey, and I gave him a hard time about people being from New Jersey. There's no way people from New Jersey hunt cryptids. And to humble me, God sent me who? A man who hunts cryptids from New Jersey. Chuck.
from the NJ, yep.
That's what I get for bullying Steve. All right, Chuck, you're awesome, man. So, Chuck, welcome to the show, man. I'm so glad you're here. And before we get into it, Chuck, I just want to say thank you very much, man, for coming on. Your YouTube channel is amazing. As always, all that information will be in the channel description down below. So, Chuck, just to get right into this, man, tell all my Enigmites everything about you, Chuck. Where are you from? Let's start with you, man.
All right. Well, I'm from Northwest New Jersey, Sussex County, which happens to be where the Appalachian Trail runs through New Jersey. So we do have, some encounters up there in NJ. But basically, I've been doing this. I don't know. It's weird. I'm 53, so I had a lot of my experiences before the internet. So, I would be hiking around and you'd get, you either feel weird or you hear something weird and you're like, you don't even know what to think about it. And then, Finding Bigfoot show came out and, Google came out and now you're able to look up different stuff. So I guess officially I've been doing this for like 5 or 6 years. Unofficially, probably about 40 years because,
Right.
if I knew what I was supposed to be looking for, then I would have been doing it sooner. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's amazing, Chuck. That's amazing. I want to give a shout out real quick before we move forward. The name of that Bigfoot conference was the Central Pennsylvania Bigfoot and Cryptid Conference, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Central Pennsylvania Bigfoot and Cryptid Festival.
Festival by Gwen
Yeah.
Purcell, who I'm actually working with to get on the channel as well. So Gwen Purcell, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I had a good time there. That was a good time. All right, Chuck. So Northern Jersey boy, but you got street cred because the Appalachian Mountains are no joke. I grew up in the upper East Tennessee, right along the Virginia, North Carolina border, smack dab in where at the mountain range when it goes down. And the Appalachian Mountain Trail runs from Canada basically straight down all the way into Georgia, except literally 2 days ago, I don't know if you heard this or not, Chuck, they actually discovered a cave system at the tip that runs from Georgia all the way down into Alabama.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was amazing. I've actually always thought, just myself, man, I've actually always thought, I know that in the area where I grew up in the upper East Tennessee, I call it the slant, between the Western Carolina border, easily 400 miles. I've always thought there's easily 400 miles of cave systems just in there, right? And there's all kinds of caves.
I'm sure.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's amazing, right? So, all right. So, Chuck, been doing this for all of his life, been doing it 6 years pretty hard, right?
Yeah. Well, how we got into this is, I was always interested in Bigfoot. You know what I mean? There was an incident that happened back in the late 70s in Sussex County, and it made the newspapers. It was basically about this family I think they were called the Sight family, and they had this like apple orchard on their on their farm, and they also had this rabbit cage, like all these pet rabbits. And this thing one night came into on their property and kind of ripped through the the rabbit coop and started tearing up the rabbits and eating them. So the next morning, the family finds this, and then that night they had like all the neighbors came around with like guns and they were waiting for this thing, and the thing came back again, and they started shooting at it, and the thing kind of disappeared into like their apple orchards. But that happened in 1977. Mm-hmm. And right about that time is when I was able to get books about like the Patterson-Gimlin film, and because that came out in '67, I believe. Mm-hmm. But it was finally making on in search of and different. It was making its way into pop culture.
Yeah.
I think the $6 Million Man was. I think it was in 1975 or '76. Andre the Giant played Bigfoot in that one episode. So. And then you had the famous, the 4-wheel drive truck, the Bigfoot truck, so it was always on like, your mind. But so at a young age, I was always like interested in it. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of went away, because I live an hour from Manhattan and I work, spent a lot of time in Manhattan. Obviously when I was, late teens and 21 and, early 20s, you're always in the city and, doing things. So, hiking and Bigfoot is like the last thing from your mind. Mm-hmm. But then once I got a little older and I was able to go back out hiking again, and you remember, oh, okay, yeah, that there's Bigfoot. Also, when I was 25, I drove across country with my buddy. He was, and I don't want to go off on a little tangent, but he actually graduated from Columbia University with a journalism major, right. And he wanted to get on TV as a reporter. So we loaded up his Jeep Wrangler. We had 2 mountain bikes and tents, and he had like 28 VHS tapes that he made up of him doing news reports. And we drove across country. We first stopped in Denver, then we made our way through Arizona and New Mexico. And we were basically going to these smaller towns, look for satellites, and they're basically TV stations. We'd pull in, he'd run in and be like, hey, I'm driving across country. You have a chance to talk to me? And for most, probably 26 out of 28 times we stopped, they would give him an interview.
That's actually really cool. That's awesome.
It was just really cool experience. We saw Grand Canyon, we saw the Badlands, we saw Yosemite, we saw Zion. Mm-hmm. But we went up to we took the PCH north of the Golden Gate Bridge up to Eureka, mm-hmm. And you take a right turn because his family lived by Mount Shasta. So you're driving on that road, and you're in like the Hopa. I guess that's the Indian reservation. And all of a sudden, we actually drove through Willow Creek. So you just all of a sudden out of nowhere, you see like Bigfoot museums pop up. You see the Bigfoot motel. And I'm like, but I really wasn't into it. I am now. And I'm like, I kick myself every day. Because I'm like, I was just in the epicenter of Bigfoot. And I was like driving. Oh, it was awful. But yeah, so those were, that kept me kind of interested. And then finally, not to come back, to reel it back in, you gotta warn me, Chuck. Hey, Chuck, reel it in, man. Quit going off on a tangent.
No, hey, look, Chuck, man. This show is the king of going off on tangents. I was talking about the 1973 Pascagoula incident last night, and I somehow got on dropping nukes. I don't know how it happened. So like it just happened, and I had to steer it back, man. So now, man, tangents are encouraged around here, man.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. So yeah, so I my mid to late 30s, 40s, I start hiking again, and it starts interesting me. I'm starting to get interested again because of the internet, and mm-hmm. Then Finding Bigfoot came on, and I was like, this is awesome. I could sit in my living room, watch these guys go out looking for Bigfoot, and and it was a regular show. And I was like, every week I was glued to my TV. My dad would make fun of me because, he doesn't believe in that shit. And none of my family. I think my 10-year-old nephew might, he was he's being very cordial with me and just being like, okay, let's let Chuck talk about Bigfoot. And I think he thinks I'm nuts, but yeah, anyway, so I'm watching this film, and then all of a sudden it goes off air. Like, oh man, this is, it's like a big void. So I start going through YouTube and looking for videos, and I find this. I'm not going to mention his name because I'm not, but I find this show that's, and I'm like, oh, let me start watching this guy. And one of the videos he did was from Sparta Mountain, which is the mountain in my town. And I'm like, wait a second. And I looked him up and I'm like, oh crap, this guy's right in my town. Right? So there's actually two guys from NJ and the Cryptid Hunters, besides your boy.
There's three, man. I'm sleeping on North Jersey, I guess, man. I might have to make a trip up there, man.
You got to come up there. We'll go get some pizza and hot dogs in the afternoon. Like time we go squatching. And so, I like his Facebook group. I messaged him on, Facebook. Hey, listen, I live right in your town. You ever want to talk about Bigfoot? Let me know. And it was just like, immediately I was like his best friend. So I started doing his show and going out on investigations with him. And I met this guy, Sean Wagner, and this guy, Brendan Brown, as part of the, he was also they were also part of the show. Mm-hmm. Long story short, we, to put it nicely, we all had creative differences with him. So, actually, I'm not going to be nice. I'm just, like I said, I have a 10-year-old nephew. I don't babysit him. I'm not going to babysit some guy that's 30 years old. I mean, you're a grown-ass man. You know what I mean? I'm not babysitting you.
Yeah, sure.
So, not to sound like a jerk, but so we all decided to start our own group, and we started the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective. Brendan was from the Catskills. I'm from Sussex County, which I said has the Appalachian Trail. Yes, sir. That's us. That's us. And Sean is out in central PA and kind of close to the, so we kind of tied it in and we just started. And then we brought another guy that was part of the previous show with us, Mike Lucci. And he's the one that you'll see in This Week in Bigfoot. He's the one we call him the professor because he's just a very smart dude. He's very into. He's one of the guys that's going to be a groundbreaking researcher. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He does a lot of stuff with sort of analytics and weather and
So real quick, so the pause right there. So let my Enigmites know, Chuck's a big deal. Chuck's being pretty humble right now. Chuck's in some pretty. He runs with the pros, I would say. So. And we were sitting here before the pre-talk. Well, you do. So you don't want to drop name. Look, hey Chuck, I'm a name dropper. So I got no problem. So if you don't think I'm going to walk around with I know Chuck. You know Chuck Larson. Chuck Larson. Chuck Larson. Chuck Larson.
I don't know. It's funny because it's you try to be you try to be humble, and I've had and since I've been doing this for the last 6 years, I've had some really really cool experiences that. There's one lady I know, Amy Boo, who's a really well-known researcher. She does a lot of. I met her probably about 5-6 years ago at one of her conferences on Beaver Creek, and we just we started a rapport with each other. And she's she's an awesome woman. She actually helped us get on the BXP channel, which is our first YouTube channel. It was From Behind Tall Trees, which Gwen actually took over for us, but. She calls me up one night, and she's like, "Hey, I'm going to be on a conference call with Dogman. You want to join?" I was like, "Yeah." So here's me, Amy, and a couple other people, and we're FaceTiming Bob Gimlin out in California, and it's like, man, you can't. This is this is the guy. This is the pioneer.
It's funny you brought that up, man. Because literally, I have a folder. Right now, on my desktop, it says Bob Gimlin. I'm working on a Bob Gimlin project right now, man. So it's actually funny you brought that up. Wow. Okay. That's awesome.
So that was a cool experience. A friend of mine, I told you the shirt I was wearing at the conference, Broken Branch Designs. Jessica, she has her own conference down in North Carolina called Encounter Quest. And last year I couldn't make it, but this year I was able to make it. And I flew down because I just didn't want to spend 14 hours in the car. So I flew from Newark to Charlotte. And she had her speakers were Dr. Meldrum, Ken Garrett, Burn. She had a lot of pretty good big name people. And I said, Jess, I'm going to be flying into Charlotte. One of those guys flying in. And she's like, well, Dr. Meldrum's flying into Raleigh, so I'm going to pick him up. But Lyle and Ken are flying to Charlotte. I'm like, well, I'm renting a car. I'll drive him down so, here I am spending an hour and a half in the car with Lyle and and Ken just talking and just,
that's awesome.
Shooting a bull. And it's a cool experiences, because they're you'll see them on all the time on History Channel.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually able to drive Dr. Nosma around too, so I get to talk to him a little bit. And it's funny, having him in the car, and I also saw him at the OBC, which is the Ohio Bigfoot Conference.
Mm-hmm.
He was there this year. It's fun. Here's this, pioneer, the anatomy and the foots, with the casts, and I'm talking to him about. I think in the car we were talking about his rental car when he was at a conference that broke down, and he had to put 4 new tires on it. And then at the OBC we were talking about his his diet and his health. So it's like, I've had this opportunity to talk Bigfoot with this huge name, and I'm talking about tires. So.
Right. Yeah. Instead of talking about if Bigfoot's hinge is in the middle of his foot, you're talking about the tires, the flat tire on the rental car. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah. So the CARC, to explain everybody about that. This is a good channel, right? I highly enjoy it when I go on there. I just found it a couple weeks ago. So Chuck, you were telling me during our pre-talk there, you're still on this channel, but you're branching somewhere else as well. Yeah.
So we're gonna. We got the opportunity. Actually, Mike Lucci, the professor, he got the opportunity to be on the Untold Radio Network with Doug Hychak, and we're going to be doing a show called the Bigfoot Journal. And Mike brought me along because if you watch This Week in Bigfoot show on the CARC Universal, it's kind of like a news show where we talk about technology and different reports and just different things. I did a segment with the conference spotlights and podcasts and more of like the pop culture stuff. So to kind of make the show similar but not exact to it, we're kind of following the same outline, so to speak. So Mike brought me along with him to do the show Bigfoot Journal, which is our first show was last Sunday. Sunday, and we have probably about 900 views by last time we checked today.
The content on the YouTube channel is really good. Yeah. Also, you were just telling me about this. I wrote it down to go check the Sugar Hill House movie.
Sugar Hill House. We did now Brendan Brown, who's one of the founders. He had a great story. He was actually a tour manager for Hoobastank and Papa Roach, and he was like all around the world, and he came back, and he's now and he was hanging out in the Catskills, and he started watching that one show that I was watching, and he's a good film editor, so he's like, listen, he grabbed me, Mike, Sean, and he's like, listen, I want to film you guys. So he's the one that actually kind of pushed us in the way of he's the one who gives us the edge on that channel. He's the one that picks up music and I don't know if you watched how many episodes you watched of This Week in Bigfoot, but there's a 2 minutes with, which is Michael Merchant. I don't know if you saw that segment, but it's really it's 2 minutes with, but it's just very edgy, and Brendan does an awesome job picking music, and he's just research, and he's fantastic.
It's great. It's great, man. It is like I'm like when I go in there, before I started doing all this channel stuff and all this media, I never paid any attention to that. Right, I would just go on there and I'd be like I enjoyed that, or I would not enjoy it. I never really got caught up in the details. Now that I'm involved in the pre-production, the editing, the final cuts.
Sure.
That is hard. You know what I'm saying? Right. So and then when I go on there, when I hate it, when I instead of just being able to enjoy the content that other people create, I'm like, what kind of lights are they using? Damn, that's a nice camera. Man,
exactly.
That's a great edit. That's a great edit, man. I can't shut it off, bro. I can't shut it off, man. And so when I'm on your channel, man, I'm like, oh man, this is some Gen X Bigfoot hunting stuff right here, man. It's got a good grit to it. So everybody, again, it'll be under your name as well during the whole post. But everybody should go over there and check it, man, and like, man, give it a follow. It's great, man. I enjoy it. So,
like I said, I can't take any credit for it. That was all Brendan. It was all Mike. They're like the they were like the guys really driving it. I was kind of just. I always joke around. I said if the CRC had an office, I'd be the one checking the mail and watering the plants.
Right? You gotta do what I do, man. When I get an office, I'm gonna come in at this point. Steve, do this. Jay, do this. I'm gonna have people that's doing it, man.
Right. So, but then, once again, I went off on a tangent. But the movie, it's a 12-minute movie. It's like 12 and a half minutes. A little docu. It's called The Devil's Road. And basically, what we did, and I sent you the Sugar Run Owls. That's our team was up in Allegheny National Forest in Pennsylvania, and we were doing like call blasts, and we got some owls back, and luckily Mike had a recording of it. Be able to get it on recording. We sent it out to David Ellis out in the Olympic Project. And he put it through his little spectrograph or whatever, his little machine, and he came up unidentified primate. And he's like, and oh, by the way, there wasn't one of them. There's two different ones. So we actually caught two unidentified things communicating with each other.
Wow.
So
that's amazing, man.
Yeah, so
really
that was pretty cool. Yeah,
it makes me think about. I'm drawing a blank at it right now. It was out the recordings that came out of California. And
the Sierra Sounds.
The Sierra Sounds recording. I made a small little clip on it as well, and it's also nicknamed the Angry Samurai, right? And when they ran that when they ran that through literally like a year and a half ago, they put it through the new AI that was coming out. And the new AI could not identify the sounds, but it also said that there were sounds on that recording that can't be heard by the human ear, right? And so that's when that's when I lean on that, and when I hear. So when you do what we do, right? Like my family's always thought I've been a little nuts, man. So the Bigfoot thing is just add that to the pile for me, right? My uncle swears. I know he watches my stuff, man. My uncle swears they don't exist. He's hunted in that upper east part of Tennessee and North Carolina. They don't exist. But that Sierra Sound tape, when they come back and they say this, I would actually challenge anybody to this. When they come back and say that there's things on this recording that the human ear can't pick up, then if the human ear can't pick it up, how can we fake it? You understand?
Yeah.
And so
and
the whole story about that Sierra Sound, the way it happened, those guys were up there, they were recording it, and then I think that even one of the trips up there that their shelter was getting attacked. I can't remember the exact story of that. And so, yeah, man. So
that was Ron Moorhead. Ron Moorhead.
Yeah. And so
he's another cool dude. Yeah.
And when you're telling me that you made those recordings and you sent those off, and they come back, we got two unknown primate, right? And I'm thinking, yeah. And when I did one of my favorite Bigfoot stories. If you ever want to check it out, have you heard of the Seraphim Long abduction case out in Western Canada, British Columbia?
Is that the one where the guy was camping and the Bigfoot picked him up, or that was in Washington?
Yeah, no.
Fill me in because.
Yeah, so Seraphim Long was a First Nation Indigenous woman, right? She was 17 years old,
right?
And she got snatched up by this Bigfoot, right? And hauled threw her over her shoulders. We did a podcast on it, man. But it's an amazing story. Takes her up into the woods, in a cave. Keeps her for like a year. There's an older Bigfoot in there, man and a woman, female, male and female. She gets sick. She gets pregnant. Takes him back. They're able to communicate. She said they could speak her native tongue language, right? The whatever her tribe was. Takes her back. She gives birth to the thing. Her brother unalives it. And the story is absolutely so amazing because it led me down a trail that when you go and just pull on a slight little thread about the amount of indigenous women being snatched up by these Bigfoot. There's a lot of them, right? And so I just thought to myself that, yeah, like Seraphim Long, this was, I want to say man, 1870s this happened, right? That it went down, right?
Wow.
And the guy who actually, I don't know if this is true, and I was so caught up in the story I didn't pull the thread on this detail, but on her reservation there was a teacher, and she's the one that she told the teacher this story. He's the one that wrote it down, and they say he's the one that coined the word Sasquatch, right? And I'm like, come on, man, I don't know about all that. Yeah, so it was pretty good, man. Wow. I can't remember his name, but yeah. So man, good find on that recording, dude, man, for real. That's awesome, bro.
That's cool. And just to follow up with you, a lot of, when I told you before, like a lot of my stuff that happened was before the internet. I was engaged once way back in the day, and I would go hiking with my now ex-fiance, but I really do believe there's a correlation between having women and having them talking and just in the woods, and like Bigfoot, either like watching over them or, like you said, maybe trying to snatch them, because I had we were up in the Adirondacks, and that's when I heard like it was like samurai chatter. Oh, wow. And it was really weird, like, and I'm like looking around like, what the, what I mean? Because we're deep in the woods. There's no, she's talking a lot, and I think she was complaining about the hike. She was hot, or something. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention because I was listening to, it wasn't like echoing, like it wasn't her voice echoing because it was coming from behind me. Yeah. Like if anything, I would hear something coming back up at me, and I'm looking, and every 3 times when I was hiking with her, I had the sense that I was being watched. Mm-hmm. And it was, and you get that feeling you're getting watched. So that was the one time. Another time we were I was actually really close to, I was probably within 20 miles of Manhattan. There's like this area that's in West Orange. It's a wooded area, but there's a greenway from that area all the way. You can take woods all the way. I don't know about now, but back in the 90s, you could from there all the way up to the Appalachian Trail. Like there was so we were hiking there, and once again I start feeling something watching me, and it's just weird, So, and she was with me, and then the third time I was up on the Sparta Mountain in my town. And I was walking my sister's dog. She had like a blue tick hound. And I was with, my ex-fiance. And we're walking, and I see the dog. He starts like looking at something in the tree line. We're on this trail, and he's kind of looking at stuff. And I'm trying to look and see what he's looking at. And I can't see anything. So we keep walking. Finally, this dog just stopped. Like he's not moving any further. Wow. And it's right around the time when I started, I was feeling like I was being watched after I was looking through the woods and the tree line. But at that, when he stopped, I just got this really like bad feeling, like it really like an almost intimidation feeling. You know what I mean? Wow. Like, and the fact that the dog was weird. He was kind of standing in front of me with his one leg, but then the most of his body was like behind me. Like, he was kind of like hiding behind me, but he's like, no, I don't want to go forward. And, just having that feeling, and then having my ex-fiance with me, I'm like, let's just get out of here. This is not, what I mean? Like, this is not a good situation.
Yeah. On this show, I run a little comedy segment where it's the ancient Enigma files, how not to die in the woods. I give these little tips along the way, right? And I often tell this on the show, man, that the most dangerous thing you could, normally the most dangerous thing in the woods are other people, right? Like there's some the feral people and all of that stuff, man. Never ignore a feeling, man. Never ignore like you have like that something's on, man, because when I grew up down the South, man, like I told this conversation, I forget I was telling it to, it was on the show, but I don't know about you, but in the South, man, when you turn 13, man, like you get a shotgun, right? Like everybody gets a shotgun, man, like a 410 shotgun, right? Mm-hmm. And so everybody, when you go, I think your first year of high school, everybody takes a hunter safety course. That's like, I don't know how you guys did it in Jersey, but that's just how, I don't know if they don't do that anymore. They should. And so you would be outside, and when you would get out of school, man, it wouldn't be uncommon, man, for people like, hey, let's go explore this haunted house. That's this house that we found in the middle of the woods, right? And so when we would go there, man, we would take our shotguns with us, right? Like we would, like everybody had shotguns, and so one time, there's only one time this ever, like there was a certain part of these woods that we would go in, man, that always, I don't know what it was, I don't know what it was about it, man, but it would like always give me the creeps. I guess can't explain it, man. The moment I would get into this like little patch to go through it, and it was not a little patch, man. It was like, because I never went, like I wasn't trying to go deep in there, right? I would just get this overwhelmed, like I would just get scared. I don't know why, man. I don't know what it was, man. I would get scared, man. I would like, you know what, I'm done, man. I would break out, man. I wouldn't even go, right? So yeah, man. So trust your gut, man, when you're in, especially in the Appalachian Trail, man, with all the weirdness. I'm working on a segment too, man, about like, so last year, they are trying to get these research papers passed where they want to declare the Appalachian mountain range the oldest mountain range on the planet, right? Because they're saying that when all of our continents were connected into that one landmass called Pangea, that the Appalachian mountain range already existed. And so when it split and it drifted, there was no tectonic activity. It's not. It is they want to say that it is they want to declare it the oldest mountain range on Earth, is what they want to say, right? Wow. And so that's how old and long those mountains have been there. And then, man, so the weird fiduciary that's going on in them hills, man. And and like I said, I'm going on a tangent. See, Chuck, it's what we do around here, man. We throw it down. A lot of people don't know that about the stuff that goes on in that mountain range. One of the main things that still goes on today, and people don't really believe me, I don't know if you have this problem up in New Jersey, but when you get down south, West Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina, running that lip, witchcraft is a problem in that mountain range. Yeah. Oof. And so I don't know why. I tell people all the time that there's people that live, especially when you want to make that crossing, right? If you want to cross from Tennessee into North Carolina, there's only two ways to go. I think one's 77, and the other one is this crazy switchback roads that goes across, right? You know, right? And so there's roads up there that I've often driven at night, saying if I went over this edge, they would never find me. They would never find me.
You guys don't believe in guardrails down there, man. It's crazy.
Man, or street lights, man. There's no street lights or guardrails, right? And so, but there's also these roads that you'll see that says no trespassing, gated, and you can't see the end of that road. Somebody lives at the end of that road. And I tell people all the time, if your car breaks down and you need help, that ain't the road. Keep walking until you find somebody else to go in it, right? But anyway, so a lot of strangeness in those mountain ranges, man. A lot of strangeness on that. But anyways, all right.
Absolutely.
Chuck,
just real quick, we do have one road, Clinton Road, that actually made it on the History Channel as one of the creepiest roads. That's like 15 minutes from my house. So really? I had an experience on that road. It was kind of weird.
Really?
It was almost like
come on, Chuck.
Yeah, it's almost like the infrasound, like when people talk about like feeling sick and getting zapped almost.
Yeah.
I was driving home, because I used to take this road. I wouldn't take it in the morning because it was dark and I'm not a hero. But I would take it on the way home. When I'm leaving, I had a customer that was on the one side of the road, and I would cut through, and it's just a shortcut to get back to my town. And I'm driving, and it was like 5 o'clock, and the sun was like in my window in a certain way, and that's a road that doesn't have any guardrails or very few. So I was like right by like the edge of the road, and all of a sudden I just feel like you ever like have like too many like shots of tequila, and you start to like start getting like I started feeling like that, and I had like a headache. I started feeling like that, and I was like, I can't see because of the sun. B, I can't pull over because there's no place to pull over. Finally, I found a little spot to pull over, and I actually, did some spinning. But it was like, it was just a sudden like zap. And then like 5 minutes later, I'm like, Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like weird as hell.
Yeah, no, man. It is so weird. So like I tell people all the time, man, to like, I mean, so when the Appalachian Trail, man, you know, you have a couple well-known cryptids or whatever that they talk about, like X, Y, and Z. And I'm telling you, man, I tell people all the time, like, you don't know the half of it, man. You don't know like the most of the scary stuff that actually goes on those mountains. But anyways, sorry on that tangent. I got more questions for you, man. I'm sorry. So
sure, brother.
All right, so look. We did the fluffy stuff. Hey, how you doing? Hey, Chuck, how are you? Nice to meet you. Blah blah blah. Enough of that crap. All right, Chuck. We're gonna get into some meat here, bro. All right. So here we go.
Oh, all right, let's do it.
Question number one I got for you, man. In your opinion, right? Your opinion, right? Mm-hmm. So, what is Bigfoot? In your opinion, right? Tell me, what is this thing, right?
All right. Well, hey, okay. So to be honest, I don't know what it is. What do I hope it is? I hope it's flesh and blood.
Right.
Because I don't know if you saw me at the because someone asked me that similar question at the festival. Listen, if it's an alien or if it's something that's not flesh and blood, I really don't want to be running into it in the woods. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's it's like listen, if it's something that was either we evolved from it or if it's its own little species. Then then I can deal with it. I don't I've seen too many alien movies where I know what they do to people. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't want something with 8 foot 8 feet tall with a long ass finger probing me. You know what I mean? It's like listen, I don't. So I hope it's flesh and blood, but you got to keep it open in this community. You got to keep an open mind. Mm-hmm. Jamie and Jenny King, who spoke at the festival, they're very into you call it the woo, you know what I mean? Which is, hey, listen, until you have something, in a room where you're dissecting it, you don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. I have friends that are, and myself, I'm Christian, that tie it to the Bible, to the book of Enoch, the Nephilim, you know what I mean? So, angels. So it could be, that too. You had Nimrod, who was, what was it, Noah's great-great-grandson? Mm-hmm. He was crossbreeding with a lot of different animals. When he was building the Tower of Babylon, he was, you know what I mean?
100%.
So you don't know. You really don't know. But like I said, I hope it was a creation from, but it can be a fallen angel. You know what I mean? You don't know because you have people talking about how they'll follow foot track, a pathway, and all of a sudden it disappears, or you'll see people see it in the woods and all of a sudden it vanishes. So you really don't know until you have a body. And I'm not a supporter of shooting a Bigfoot by any means, but if an old boy gets hit by a truck, then we just did it. On the last show we just did a segment on the Ape Canyon, which is it was 100 years old. There was a 100-year anniversary. And that was east of Mount St. Helens. And they said in the 1980, St. Helens blew up. The forestry workers and the people in the government, actually, they said they found, large Bigfoot type animals, like all burned up and
this came out 3 months ago. There's supposedly floating around with the Freedom of Information Act that came out in a file dump. I've only heard it talked about. I haven't found it, but they're actually when St. Helens erupted, the Air Force set up a separate site and were treating Bigfoots for burns.
Yeah. Well, oh, really?
That's what. Yeah. Now I haven't seen it. Somebody else had told me about it, and I saw a guy make a small video about it. But he was saying that there was a separate site set aside, and the Air Force was actually treating these guys for burn wounds. And I'm like, okay. So
wow, that's crazy. That's weird. Like I said, there's. And I don't want to get on anyone's radar or anything, I don't want to have my computer but I definitely think that, they know about, they know about the aliens. They know about everything. You know what I mean?
For sure.
They know Bigfoot. And then either it's if it's either in Nevada or the other place they have in Utah, you know what I mean? They definitely believe.
And so it was crazy too, is because like what you're talking about, Nimrod's best friend in that Epic of Gilgamesh was a Bigfoot named Enkidu. Like he had a Bigfoot, and that was the name was Enkidu. And then I just back there on my shelf back there is the book of that's the 52 Apocrypha. It was the books that were taken out of the Bible, and the book of Enoch is in there. And in the book of Enoch, there's a chapter called the Book of Giants where they were talking about all the animal human hybrid crossbreeding they were doing and testing on it as well. And then
that's crazy.
And so then somebody hit me up the other day on a theory, and they were talking to me about, because I'm a Christian as well, and they put me on a theory, and they were saying in the book of Genesis, it says so the book of Enoch tells the story of, and this actually comes back to like the Bigfoot. That's why I'll share it real quick. The book of Enoch talks about the Watchers, the fallen angels, but if you look at the Sumerian tablets, they take the Watchers and they call them the Anunnaki. It's the same story. One of them's told from a biblical standpoint. The other one's told more like a sci-fi movie, right?
Sure.
And in the book of Genesis, it states, "Let us take man and make him in our image." It doesn't say, "Let us make man." It said, "Let us take man," right? So there was already a form of man on the earth, and it was taken, and we were changed, and this is what we became. And the guy was telling me, he's like, Bigfoots were here first. They took them and made us. So that's what he was telling. That's what he was telling me, and I'm just like, I got to wrap my mind around that a little bit, bro. And he's like, so like he's working at the paper out as well. So yeah, man, like that's the whole thing. The same thing, the story that you were talking, how the tracks. This guy, I get a lot of people send me things. I'm cautious to what I open in my emails too. So they send me these things, right? Sure. And then I read them. And a couple of guys, I'll talk to them one-on-one, and they were saying that, hey, look at this in Alaska. So that whole, because Alaska is that's where you can, like, it is most noticeable. They're tracking these things in the snow, and they're gone. They just stop. And he was saying that, when you're in a 3-foot snowdrift and you got something that's clearly 8 to 10 feet tall, but you can tell by the strides, right? And then you're out there in the middle, and you're still in the middle of the snowdrift, and it's not a fresh snow, and the tracks just go away. They just stop. They're just no longer there. So yeah, man, that's crazy, right? So yeah.
And that's it's another experience I had when I was snowshoeing with one of my, a friend of mine, another female, and we were up at High Point State Park, which is one, there's High Point State Park and there's Stoke State Forest, which is where the Appalachian Trail runs, and away yonder. But High Point State Park is the highest point in New Jersey, and they have all these snowshoe trails. You can, buy a ticket for $10 and just run around. And I saw a trackway, and it was weird because I saw it come from the right. It came up off of like a ridge, came across. He stepped right in the middle of the snowshoe track, like the trail, left a big, like, deep impression. And then all of a sudden it went up the hill, and it was like, probably it was down a steep hill, but a pretty significant hill with 2 feet of snow on it. And sure enough, the track stopped. Like, it didn't. It stopped before the crest of the hill. But I always think and I'm like, it was weird because. I'm like 5'11", so I'm not a big dude. But, if I'm going through snow like that, I'm going to be like Rocky climbing up that mountain in Rocky 4, using my hands and, because it's deep snow. I'm out of shape. What the hell? These steps were like, they're clean steps up the hill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like no hand dragging, no whatever. And I'm like, that's kind of weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, nah. And in that story I was telling you about Seraphim Long, her abduction story, she made a comment that I was when I was talking on the podcast about it, that stood out to me, is that she's being abducted by this Bigfoot, right? And they referred to him as the wild man, the more of the wild man looking Bigfoot, right? But she commented about how in shape he was, about he ran through the brush, swam through the river, and carried her, and his breathing never really accelerated. He didn't get winded, and that's one of the things that, like, if you ever deal with people who deal with traumatic situations in their life, they recall the most obscure things. Like, some people will say, like, like, I was in there and something happened, and I just realized my shoe was untied, and that's like that little tail. That's a little point that I put in there. And I was telling Jay, when I was telling him about the story, the fact that she commented that this thing that took her, he's in really good shape. Like he didn't even break a sweat, right? And I thought to myself, wow, man, like that lent credibility to me, man.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So, all right. So you want Bigfoot to be human or flesh and blood for
flesh. I would hope it is, but like I said, we don't know yet. Yeah. So.
And so I threw this question out at the conference or the festival to the all the guys that were up there. I don't know if you got a chance to answer on it or not. Is that people have sent me stories, and it seems to be more common in the Washington state area and the Canadian border side up there. I guess that's the British Columbia side of it, and Alaska. About they often are experiencing like these orb phenomenon the same time that they are seeing these Bigfoot sightings. And the guy sent me one. I'm also, like I said, I'm interacting with so many people. Someone told me that there was 11 different types of Bigfoots, and he was telling me that you have these conehead type of Bigfoots that
wow.
Okay. Are you familiar with what they call the conehead ones a little?
Kind of like you can elaborate more, but yeah, I'm thinking like Patty with the cone head, like
So that's a perfect idea. Like the Patterson Gilman, the Patty types, right? That they have like their head is not like ours where it's it has a little bit more of a crest on it, right?
Conical, yeah.
And he was conical. Thank you. That's the. I grew up in the South, man. You got that good Jersey education. Conical shaped head. This was female. She was telling me that she said that those seem to be seen more with the orb types. And if you head down south, towards they call them the skunk apes down there, but in Louisiana, they say they have these three-toed version ones that are supposed to be very mean, the meaner types. He says you don't see that, you don't hear about the orbs with those. And again, man, it's just like you pull on a thread, man. It just leans more and more, the questions. But do you have anything? What do you make of that? Like the orb situation?
Because I've heard of people tell me that they've seen lights or orbs before, having an experience. To tie it into like the if they're alien or something like that. We had a show, the From Behind Tall Trees. We had Jody Cook on. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's big in the Dogman world.
Oh,
he's a Bigfoot researcher, but he also does Dogman. And he was telling us a story about how he was, at a conference in Vegas, and he was, speaking there. And he was in this, the bar afterwards, having a couple of drinks, and he had this guy come up to him that actually worked at Area 51, and started telling him about this story, how he used to work there in the late 60s, and and he said that it was either George Lucas or Spielberg, one of the two, for Star Wars, actually the government gave them access to Area 51.
Okay.
So that famous bar scene when Han Solo meets Luke Skywalker, and you got all these weird different aliens there. You got two of them look like Dogman, like actual hairy dogs standing up.
Wow.
And then you have Chewbacca.
I've never connected that dot before, but there are in the cantina scene. Okay.
Yeah, they're in there. And then you have Chewbacca, who's hairy. When they were filming in Northern California, they told the guy to Chewbacca, "Hey, don't go off set, man. They'll shoot you out here." You know what I mean? So
catch around out here.
So maybe they, like I said, maybe there is some tie to the orbs and aliens and stuff like that. But like I said, until we find we're able to dissect something, or maybe they already did dissect it and they already know. So
yeah,
you know what I mean?
No, that's a great point in there too, man. And I tell one of the big things that like I've always believed in Bigfoot, right? I always have, man. And in the area that I grew up, I've never seen a Bigfoot. I've never seen a Bigfoot. And with my own eyes, I've never seen a Bigfoot print. I've heard weird things in the woods, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really weird stuff. But I've never heard a howl or a knock or anything like that. But I've heard weird stuff. And when I was in high school, so when I was in high school, so I had to, I tell this, I was explaining this the other day. You would know what a kegger is, right? When I was in high school, man, they used to have these, they used to have these keggers, right? So
yeah.
I was an underclassman, but a story took off in my high school one time. Is in Tennessee, upper East Tennessee, man, they have this river called the Noah-Chucky River, right? And they say that the Noah-Chucky is called a Cherokee word for the devil's eye. And what it is the Noah-Chucky River is a river that you can tube on, but underneath it is another river. And where the underneath river hits the top river, it will create a sinkhole and it will suck you under.
Oh, wow.
And you'll go through the riverbed and you'll go into the bottom part of the river and you'll never be found, right? But it's a very popular place for people to go down there and enter. They still get in the water and they enter to it, but I didn't have a car or anything like that. So they had a kegger down there one time, right when school started. I think I was a sophomore or a freshman. I think I was a sophomore. Right when school started, they had a kegger, man. Early September, they went down there. And, you know, back, I was telling it, I don't know if they still do this anymore. What it is, man, you'd pull up about 5 or 6 cars, turn your lights on, and everybody would get out, they'd make a fire, and you just start pumping these kegs, right? Yep. So these guys were down there, and there was about 15, 20 people down there. And I think in this particular instance, man, they had like a little fire going. And one of them, so they were drinking and drinking and drinking. One of them looks off to the side over in the tree line, and they saw, this was the story, they saw a Bigfoot standing there, but it was only like 4 feet tall, 5 feet tall, juvenile, right? It was a juvenile Bigfoot, right?
Right.
So these guys are all drunk, and they thought it would be funny to chase it. So like 3 or 4 of them, like, let's get it, and they took off. They started chasing it, right? And so the Bigfoot went through the woods, and so they chased it. The story came back to school that they chased it about a half a football field, man, maybe 75 yards, way longer than you should ever go in there. And they stopped. And by the time they got there, 4 or 5 other people from the kegger pulled up and they're like, man, what's going on? What's going on? And they looked at it. And one of them just happened to have remember them big mag lights, man, those big ones? Like you put like 14 batteries in. Sure. Cops used to bang you in the head with them if you get out of line. Right? So one of these guys, man, had like this mag light and he's looking around, man. He looked up, he said he looked up into the trees, man, and there was like 15 or 12 of them in the trees looking down at him. And there was the mamas and the daddies. And so, man, mass panic broke out, right? And so they just broke back to the cars, man, and dove into the cars, man. And they all drove off, man. That was the only only Bigfoot story that I'd ever heard. So, but here, I just plugged the segment. The Ancient Enigma Files, How Not to Die in the Woods. Never chase a Bigfoot juvenile because he's running to his mommy or his daddy, right? So,
oh, jeez.
Yeah. Wow. But yeah, man. And so I've always believed it, right? And so when I joined the Navy and I went there, and when I was in Japan, like I said, I would sit around and I would talk to these guys from all over the place, and I would tell them a casual Bigfoot story, and they'd be like, "What are you talking about, hayseed?" I'm like, "What do you mean? Y'all don't have those?" Like, "No, I'm from Ohio." It's like, "You don't have those?" It's like, "No." So I was like, I just thought everybody like had like Bigfoot stories, right? But yeah, man. And with the thing about how you said is that they always come at you and they're like, well, just like you said, well, why they never catch one? Why they never find one? Why you never find a body? And I do defend several things about how I can point this out is that the reason why you will never find a Bigfoot body is the same reason you'll never walk up on a dead deer carcass in the woods, because it'll be gone in less than a day. Like within 24 hours, the possums will eat the bones. It'll be nature is great at cleaning up, right? That's number one. I've been in the woods a lot. Yeah. Well, you would agree with that, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So like I've been hiking all the time, and I found one time, me and my cousin, and only reason why we found it is because we were kind of digging through the dirt. We found a dog skull. One time we found either a coyote or it wasn't a wolf, but it was only about that big. It was a skull buried into to the side of this dirt mound that we were like really like we were in the sticks, man, and we were.
Wow. No.
Yeah, I've never seen any other dead. I've never walked up on any dead animals in the woods. So that's number one, right? Number
Mm-hmm.
two, I'm a firm believer in this. They're smarter than us, right? Right? They don't want to be seen. They don't want to be caught, right? They're and you're not gonna find them hiking the blue trail at the park. All right, that's not where they're at. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's funny, and I don't want to I won't mention his name, but we used to go investigating, and the one guy had like this 1999, expedition or suburban, big truck,
yeah,
creaky, everything like that. And I remember we were out in a spot one time, and I get out and I close the door, and it was, and all of a sudden he's like, I'm like, well, why are you shushing me? He's like, in this freaking pile of crap, making every single noise with a car. You're worried about a door slamming? What the,
it heard us coming, man. 3 miles away, bro. We're
just take you heard your blinker when we got off the main road.
Yeah.
I mean, what the,
Yeah. So
like I said, it's funny, but yeah, they know you're there, and it's one of these, I don't want to hold up all the time, but one of the times that we did, Mike and I did an investigation, which is another cool thing when you have a group, local people will reach out to you and be like, hey, can you check out my property, or can you do this, So we actually had this lady reach out to me, and where she lived like back in the 70s. Her road was a dirt road, and the dirt road basically you could walk the Appalachian Trail with less than a mile. Like she used to wake up, she used to tell me like in the 70s, like she used to wake up in her front yard, have people sleeping on there and people using the hose. The dad would let them use the hose to fill the water and stuff like that. But her property, and it's in a development, and it's in a development. But a lot of the development, it's a lot of foreclosures, so a lot of empty houses. But across the way from her, across the street from where her house was a swamp, this big swamp. And it was actually the swamp that, I don't know if did you watch Finding Bigfoot? You ever watched the show?
no.
Okay, they did a couple episodes from New Jersey. And the one episode, there was an old lady that, had an experience when she was coon hunting with her father back in the 50s. So basically, but we're on, that was basically the property we were able to investigate. And we're going, and I was 50 pounds heavier, and I like going on trail, but Mike likes to go like bushwhack and like basically make your own trail through the woods. So I'm like, great. So we're walking up this hill, like a 90-degree angle, and I'll reference that later. And, so we're hiking up this hill, and we're in like this woods, and I had to use the restroom. So I used the restroom, and then, probably 25 feet later, there was a wild strawberry patch, right? So we hike this trail until we get to like the power line cut, and Mike decides to do a rock clack, and he did a rock clack, and also we hear like something big move, like in the it wasn't like a deer, it wasn't tiny by any means, it wasn't, we heard something big move. So I was like, all right, by this time it's getting dusk, and if I'm all over the place with this story, I apologize.
No, I love it.
But yeah, by this time it's getting dusk, so I'm like, Mike, I'm not walking through the woods again to get back to this lady. Let's follow the power line cut down to the road and just walk back on the road, and we'll hang out on her deck, whatever, talk to her, and interview her, stuff like that. And he's like, all right, cool. So we do that, and we're on this lady's deck, and she wouldn't let us film wouldn't let us like record anything. She just wanted to talk with us. So we're hanging out on the deck, and all of a sudden, and it's going to be pretty dark. It's dusk, but it's not like dark yet.
Right.
All of a sudden, you hear, and then you hear clack, 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 and sure enough, within like 10 seconds later, you hear like a one wood knock back, like a back. And I was like, oh, Mike, I'm like, what the,
Right.
and I told this story to a BFRO guy, like a year later, and he's like, "Listen, how many people are on the deck?" I'm like, "Well, it was Mike, myself, this lady, and her sister." And he's like, "Well, you had the one rock clack, and then there's 4 rock clacks to count the 4, the 4 people, and you had the one wood knock back just to, say, hey, listen, I got it. Okay, cool. There's 4 of them. So, but and the weird thing was, we just kept on hanging on the deck, and sure enough, and the reference to steep mountain, we heard a tree get pushed down, and it was that's kind of a weird because it wasn't windy out, it wasn't anything. All of a sudden you hear like a big boom, like a loud boom, and the reason why I was mentioning how steep it was is the tree didn't fall down the hill, like it wasn't falling down towards us.
Right.
That thing fell sideways and maybe up. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if just gravity is going to pull the tree down if it's falling down.
Yep.
Right. So this thing went sideways. Then we heard heavy footfalls going up and away from where the tree was knocked down or pushed down. And the reason I mentioned the steepness of the hill too, if those were rocks, the rocks would be rolling down the hill too. They wouldn't be rolling up a hill.
Yeah.
Especially if it's 90 degrees, or I shouldn't say 90, 45 degrees. 90 degrees would be like a wall. 45 degrees. Yeah. All right. Sorry.
No
Sorry
worries.
about that. I'm not a nerd. I don't know
No,
my degrees.
trust me. I walk up 9-degree hills all the time, bro. I just walk. Going to. That's how I get there.
I walk up a 3-degree hill and it feels like it's 90 degrees. That's how out of shape I am. But but that was a cool, and it did have the history of having this lady, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, having this 60 years ago now, having her sighting. So
yeah,
that was an experience I had that was pretty cool. And so sorry for going off on a tangent.
No. It's you just triggered a memory too, man. I thought of that. I've been thinking this for a while, that when I think in the military, we have ways of communicating silently, visually, that we can see each other, right? We have ways to talk, right? And I've always thought that, like, when I hear the clicking and the knocks that they talk about, I already know that these things are hyper intelligent, not just smart. These things are hyper intelligent. So they're not communicating. Woo, that's not how they're communicating, right? That means something else to them, right? And so, like your buddy was saying, like click, 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 and then bing, bing. That's exactly how you would talk outside of eyesight across it, counting out the people that were there to do it, right? And so, no, that makes, to me, man, that makes perfect sense, right? And again, of course, right? Yeah, and then again, like a territorial, and I have a belief too about the territorial displays that Bigfoots do, is a kind of, not a sign of to be challenged. It's a sign for that they're letting you know, hey, look, you don't want to probably come past this point, right? Like, look, I know you're there. Yeah, I know why they know why you're here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They know why you're here, right? I know you're there. I know why you're here. But I'm going to let you know that I can rip this tree out of the ground uphill and lay it down. And so I would have no problem throwing your butt back to your car from here when you wouldn't touch the ground not one time, right? So, and in my mind, right? And so, I have the receipts for that as well, is because you mentioned earlier that you'd been to Mount Shasta. And I'm reading a story. I've talked about it before, but I'm reading more detail on it. The Native American tribe that is in the Mount Shasta area, they have a legend or a lore, verbal story passed down. And this is all over YouTube too. You can go look at it. They went to war with these Bigfoots one time for stealing their children. And I don't know. Are you familiar with that story? Are you familiar with that story?
I definitely heard about it, but you can definitely elaborate on that too. But it's funny. Over the years, you hear so many different things. You learn. I wish I was better versed in all of them. But I definitely heard that story. But please elaborate.
And they won, right? And so they knew how. So these Bigfoots are capable of in the book of Enoch, it also talks too in that book of Giants that right before the great deluge came, they went to Enoch to petition him to ask God not to kill them. And they came together on a council and picked representatives. So, and in the Seraphim Long, her chief said that there was a mountain that they in British Columbia that they refused to name. They would not name that mountain. And they said because that's where the hairy men live. And once a year, these hairy men would come together and their elders would meet at the top and the young hairy men would protect the bottom. And no one was allowed to go on that mountain while they were meeting. Wow. And so when you have, so that right there is a sign of language and culture and hierarchy, right? And so these aren't like our silverbacks that just dominate. No, they're meeting and talking. And when they went to war with, when the Native American tribe out there on Mount Shasta went to war, they defeated this Bigfoot element. And they had a treaty. They had a treaty. Seraphim Long said, and there's other people that said that they could, when they chose to, speak their language. They weren't communicating with grunts or knocks, right? And so, and so when when that story that you were telling me about the clacking and the rock clicking or whatever, so when we try to imitate that, they know exactly what we're doing, right? Like look at this idiot, man, banging a tree. Should I bang one? It's like two of them, like, go ahead, man, Chuck, bang that tree for him. Bang, bang. What's
getting all excited.
So they're laughing at us, right? So yeah, man, no, that's amazing, man. And you're absolutely right, man. That tree's not going to go. No way. That just doesn't happen. Like something puts it down, man. No, that's amazing, dude. Wow.
Yeah, I think the VFO guy that I talked to, and his name's Rick Wells, he was like, listen, the clacks and the wood knocks were for them. The tree push down was for you. Basically, like you said. Yeah, man. And I don't know if it was me because I peed too close to the strawberry patch or what. He got aggravated, but I thought that they were, he definitely paralleled us back from, where we were. But yeah, no, it's crazy. And then the other time I had it, just to real quick, the other time I heard a tree get pushed down was, and this is actually, I want to say I saw Bigfoot because I don't know what the hell I was looking at. And it was just a weird situation where there's a restaurant in New Jersey, North Jersey. It's a very good restaurant called Walk Back In. And it's a big, beautiful restaurant, a lot of windows. It's basically a greenhouse, and it looks out. And the ridge line behind the restaurant is actually the Appalachian Trail. So we're in the Delaware Water Gap, it's not a national park, it's a national recreation area. So it's all protected land. The other thing is this place has got a massive parking lot. So I dropped my aunt off at the front door. She can go and get the table. I went and parked the car like half a mile away. It's a parking lot. So I'm walking up and I'm having a smoke, and I see these two older couples kind of like staring at each other. And they're like looking really, really weird at each other. I'm like, oh man, are these people fighting or something? I'm like, just kind of curious. And, from Jersey, you can always,
Jersey.
People throw down. So I'm just kind of sitting in the smoke and watching these people. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, another tree was pushed down. Boom. Same thing. Same steep hill. I don't want to say it's 45 degrees. Maybe it was like 30. It was still a steep hill, but still the same thing. It was pushed to the side.
Right.
And once again, you hear footfalls going up and away from where the tree was coming from. And I was like, holy crap. That was, so I don't know if they heard something before that happened. Like when I was walking up, maybe like it was a grunt or something. Like they were like, because they're looking at each other and they're looking at the woods and looking at each other, but they looked like they were kind of pissed too. So I'm like, all right, I thought they was going to fight. So anyway, I'm in the restaurant with my aunt eating. We got the nice table by the window, and I'm looking out. And before the ridge, there's this nice patch here, and I had like tall grass, like with 3 to 4 feet tall grass. It's really pretty. And I'm looking out there, and I got my phone like just like an arm's reach away from me. I'm looking out, and I see this thing stand up in the pasture.
Wow.
Now it was June. It was like late June or mid to late June. It was one of those days where it was like 80 degrees with like 90% humidity. It was just like miserable. I was out of shape at the time. Not to, I hate humidity, so I could be really in good shape. I just don't like humidity, So, and I'm like looking at it, and you don't see a snout. It doesn't look like a deer. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of substantial, but it's not massive. It's just kind of lanky. I didn't see a snout. It definitely wasn't a bear, because the black bears are jet black up in New Jersey. I mean, you can definitely tell if it's a black bear. The coloring was reddish, orangey brown. So and I'm thinking, well, why would some idiot be into ghillie? First of all, it didn't really look like a ghillie suit, because ghillie suits got like green in them, and they got they're kind of green and gray. But I'm like, why would some idiot be in a 80-degree weather and this miserable humidity, like in a field, a tick-infested, snake-infested field, when it's not even hunting season?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this thing, and I'm reaching for my phone to go and grab a, see if I can take a crappy picture of it, right? Because that's all I can do is take crappy pictures. I grab my phone, and I'm about to put my code in, and I go to look, and all of a sudden you see the thing just kind of kneel back down. And it was weird because, like you said, like deer and animal, they'll fall forward. You know what I mean? No. They're not going to just crouch back down.
No.
And into the high ground. And I'm like, and then I never saw it again.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why I'm like, why would some idiot in a ghillie suit that doesn't look like a ghillie suit not just walk out of the field? Why is he crawling through, this field? You know what I mean?
No.
And I'm like, so that's why I'm like, but like I said, I was kind of far away, so I didn't really, I could see features, but not, exactly what it was, but I was like, man, that was kind of, and then I was like, oh, that would probably explain the tree getting pushed down. It was probably a juvenile, in the field messing around, and the mom was like, crap, there's a lot of people here. Let me show some dominance, and
no, for sure. And so like I have this
experience.
Yeah, I have this thing on the channel, man, that when I bring, like I get like I have a baseline for people that, so I get reached out to a lot, and I'm not good always about responding, right? But sometimes I get people that just want to throw fire, right? And so I have a baseline, I call it a hard deck, that if we're going to have a conversation about something, first we have to admit at a minimum something happened, right? And so if you want to, if you're not willing to come in and saying that no, that didn't happen, that's a lie or whatever, then there's no sense in talking to you. So I apply that on everything. So and then what I do is what you just did. I start working my way backwards. Why would an idiot be dressed up in it? Okay, there might be. You never know. There could be an idiot, right? But like, why would an idiot be in a ghillie suit, 130 degrees at night, crawling through a field, right? And and so and why would the ghillie suit not? Why would it be that special color, black and like brownish or whatever? So no.
It was like no green and gray and like like the usual, and so then green, gray, and brown, I guess.
So then I take the next step, say it's a Bigfoot. I just go right. I go right there. Sasquatch sighting. Awesome. Chuck.
Yeah, but that's also the reason why, real quick, I just, why isn't there pictures of it? Why isn't there great, pictures of Bigfoot? Even now with everyone having their phones in their hands with cameras, I have a cat named Petey. He does stupid shit all the time. I'm allowed to swear. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Anyway, he does like stupid stuff all the time, and I was trying to take a picture of him doing this stuff. And sure enough, as soon as I get my phone ready, he stops doing it, or he's out of the picture. You know what I mean? So it's like it takes you like a good 3 to 4 seconds to punch in your code and get the camera pulled up, and you know what I mean? Yeah. So if you're looking at something, you got to grab the phone. You got to get it all set up. By the time you have it, the moment's missed. So
another thing too, I tell people this all the time, is that iPhone is a trash camera. It's a trash camera. And so 3 or 4, about a month and a half ago, actually, me and my wife, we were out hiking, and we were hiking along this river, and we were fairly remote. We were about 3 miles away from anything,
right.
So but she's not, I got to ease her into like the hard stuff, right? And this was just a day trip, but we were on this river. We were hiking on the side of the river. On the other side of the river, on a tree had been somehow bent over, cracked in half, but there was a flatness on the top of the tree. Wow. There was something on the top of that little thing. And I was like, man, what is that? And she's like, so she pulls out her phone, which is an iPhone, which is trash, and it was just blurry. I pulled out my phone, which is a Samsung, right? Man, I drilled it in. It was a black snake had killed itself trying to swallow a turkey buzzard. So it looked, wow. It was a big snake, with half of a turkey buzzard inside of its mouth, and it was just too big. And it, instead of just letting it go, it died there trying to eat it. And so, wow. And that's why I was telling people too. I was like, number one, everybody likes these iPhones. I don't like them. And you can go look it up, man. Go Google it, man. The Samsung technology and the phones are far superior than iPhones. That's number one.
I got a Samsung.
Yeah. And number two, when you're in the woods, right, and you're walking and you're looking for something and you see something, right, and I don't think people calculate the adrenaline or the fear. People say, oh, why is it so shaky? Why is it so blurry? Because I'm looking at a 12-foot thing. I don't know what I'm looking at. It's looking back at me, right? I don't know if I should run or what I should do. And so when I talk to these people, I'm like, you guys act like you're so cool. Like you would be like, oh, look, it's a Bigfoot. Let me get a selfie with. Let me go over there and hug it. Let me get a selfie with it, right? I've seen people. I've taken people hiking. That a deer has made them scream, right? A deer jumping out has made them scream, right? And I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, you guys are behind these keyboards, man. You guys are pretty critical, man. So no,
that's the thing. It's everyone goes hiking during the day, but as soon as it gets dark out, people don't want to. And I was the same way when I first got into this. I was more comfortable being in the South Bronx or Harlem at nighttime than I was in friggin' Stoke State Park. So
I'll tell you this right now in closing too. That you people that you hear us these conversations that we're having, I can tell you, especially the Appalachian Mountains, that is a different forest. That is a different creature at night. You have no idea. You have no idea. Yeah, I mean, that is a great point that you brought up. You have no idea. Like, it literally becomes an entirely different thing at night than you are during the day. I even tell you, I'm in Northern Virginia, and we go hiking in the Shenandoah, right? And we were in there this year. I did an Instagram thing while I was in there, and we were on this trail, and somehow, I don't know how, I was goofing off, I was doing something, but we ended up off this trail, right? And it took me and my wife just follows, man. She just like, wherever I'm going, she's going. She's oblivious. But then I quickly realized, I said, man, we're not where we need to be, right? Yeah. And it was starting to get dark. And I was like, all right. I said, man. So in my calculations, I was gonna like, look, the truck is right here. I'm gonna make this turn, right? And there's gonna be the truck. And I was like, I had to tell her, I'm like, hey, look. I said, for the last 20 minutes, I've been walking us dead into the forest. I said, she's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, look. I said, look, calm down. Turn around. That's east. We're just gonna walk right there, and then I'll. And so, like again, man, 25 minutes later. We were out. We were back on it. Sun was going down, and we kept through it, right? Yeah. So when I tell people this all the time, I was like, when you get on that Appalachian Trail, and when people are hiking it, they'll just stop. They'll drift off into the woods and throw a tent, man. Yeah. There's not a camp. I mean, you have them, you know what I'm saying, but there's not a campground. You know what I'm saying? Like we're here. You know
it's flat. Yeah, it's flat. No rocks. And sleep. Damn.
That's it, man. And so then so when I was telling her that, man, so the same way, man, like going into it at night is totally different. Man, Chuck, look, bro, you're a rock star, dude. And I got my hooks in you now, man, because I already got another topic I want to bring you on down the road to talk about, man. Real quick.
All right, you please do.
Before we get to that, man, tell everybody where you can be found, man.
All right, so we got a Facebook group. It's called the CARC, or the Catskill Appalachian Research Collective. That's on Facebook. We have a YouTube channel. It's the CARC Universal on YouTube. I believe we have a TikTok and an Instagram account as well. And then also we have, Mike and I, like I said, we're going to be doing we have a new show which comes out twice a month. It's called the Bigfoot Journal, and that's on the Untold Radio Network. And then Gwen, actually, she's going to come on the show. She's a CARC member. Besides owning Got Knockers, she's
great name.
She's it's an awesome name, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah. She has a show, From Behind Tall Trees, on our network, and we also have her husband Mike does the paranormal side too. So, we call ourselves a collective. Obviously, we're very Bigfoot heavy, very cryptid heavy, but we also do paranormal, ghosts, UFOs, and stuff like that too. But so check us out. We got that cool movie, like I said, The Devil's Road, and just like our Facebook page, join our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and
yes,
and hopefully you get out to conferences. You can hopefully meet, because that's the cool thing about this community, man. Just meeting the people, hearing the stories.
Yeah. No, I gotta tell you, man. Yeah, I gotta plug that. I gotta tell you, man. That conference was fun. I had a lot of fun in that conference. I really do. I'd never been to one before. It's the first time I've ever been to one. I will be making the circuit now, because when I got in there, man, it just felt good, man. I got to meet so many, like even I got somebody gave me some hot sauce. Somebody gave me a bracelet back there in the back. This really cool people, right in the store.
Is that Mike Cook, right? Is it Mike? He got the hot sauce.
So I got him on my list too. Mike Cook gave me that. He's an interesting cat as well, man. He's got some experience.
Interesting,
yeah.
Very, very, yeah. It's very, yeah. He's very knowledgeable, and yeah.
Kentucky boy.
And that's cool. What's that? He's Kentucky, yeah.
Kentucky boy his story was amazing, man. And it was hanging on there as well. So Mike Cook, give him a shout out. He's on my list to reach out to get him on the show as well. So look, everybody, Chuck's information, the CARC, hit it one more time, the Catskill Appalachian
Research Collective. Research Collective.
Look at that card, man. Look at those bad boys right there, man. That right there, man. That's the Limp Biscuit of research community right there, man. You guys are the real deal. Go follow their channel. I follow them. I just recently put this channel on Facebook, followed them right away. And I tell you what, man, I'm going to go watch that movie tonight as I unwind. It's going to be amazing. If you've stuck around this long, guys, you are my type of losers. Do us a favor. Smash that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. I don't care what you do with that bell. I don't even know what that bell does. If you got any questions for Chuck, or if you want to get in touch with Chuck, or you want to do it, he's a member of our Discord now. He has the Enigma Sage rank. He is in orange. Hit that link tree that we have in the bio. Come in there. You can reach out, talk to him. If you're interested and want to have him on his show, all of his information is there. Or you can just direct message him on the Discord server, and you guys can cook it out and hang out. Chuck, man, it's a pleasure for coming, brother. I got to bring you back on. I got a thing that I'm working on. I want to talk to you.
Absolutely, man. Let me know.
We need to get into some Dogman stuff around here, all right? Because I'm finding out that slowly but surely that Dogmen, werewolves, they ain't the same, all right? So we're going to figure it out.
No, man. There's some creepy, I don't want to run into that. If I run into a Dogman, I'm hanging up the boots, and I'm getting an apartment in Manhattan, because I will.
I'm out, right? Run into a Dogman, I'm out. All right, Enigmites, we'll catch you next time. We're out.
Subscribe now and turn on the notifications to join us on this extraordinary journey into the unknown.